So, how did two unlikely friends go from hanging out with a weird plumber
Geronimo!
Did he just slide down a sewer pipe?
to being celebrated as the universe's greatest heroes?
Give a big welcome to the grand marshals of our parade, Ratchet and Clank!
Today, we're talking about Ratchet and Clank, one of the absolute staples of the early PlayStation years. Ratchet and Clank is an action platforming series that follows a furry alien and his robot sidekick as they save the galaxy from a variety of wacky threats. This has been a long-running series that has tried to go in some very interesting directions, so without any further ado, let's dive in. The adventures of everyone's favorite Lombax and his shiny metal friend began in 2002 with Ratchet and Clank. This game was also remastered in 2016, but we'll be using the original version so you can enjoy all that polygonal PS2 goodness. Welcome to the distant Solana galaxy. When we first meet Ratchet, he's just a humble spaceship mechanic toiling away on the planet Veldin. Meanwhile, on the nearby planet of Quartu, a factory is pumping out big, dangerous-looking robots called warbots, but one of them comes out defective. He's considerably smaller and way friendlier looking. This, of course, is Clank. Once he learns the evil purpose he was created for, he realizes that it's up to him to stop it. The other warbots try to catch him, but Clank escapes down a slide and steals the spaceship. Before long, he's shot down by warbots chasing him and crash lands on Veldin. Ratchet sees the ship crash and heads to check it out, destroying many innocent boxes with his wrench along the way. At the crash site, Ratchet finds a deactivated Clank and brings him back to his shop. There, Clank reactivates, and the two future best buddies are together at last. But there's no time to mess around because Clank says he's on a mission to save the solar system. Clank presents an infobot with a video of the very guy who made him, the corrupt capitalist Chairman Drek. This skeezy businessman is from an alien race called the Blarg that completely ruined their home planet with pollution and overcrowding. In order to fix that, Drek is a totally legit, not at all evil plan that involves taking massive chunks from other planets to make a new home planet. Of course, those other planets will completely implode in the process, but that's just a risk that Drek is willing to take. Ratchet is no hero though, so only agrees to help Clank find Captain Quark, a famous superhero celebrity in the Solana galaxy who will definitely help a cute little bot like Clank. Right as some warbots land on Veldin, the unlikely pair hop in Ratchet's ship and head for the planet Novalis. Along the way, the little robot formally introduces himself as Unit B5429671, but Ratchet says that he'll just call him Clank for short. On Novalis, Ratchet comes in for a bumpy landing, meaning his ship is completely obliterated in an explosive crash. This Lombax has a lot more experience fixing ships than he has flying them. Novalis is the first target of Drek's planet-stealing scheme, and when our heroes arrive, the planet is being forcefully evacuated by Drek's robot army. Ratchet smashes his way through them, collecting lots of bolts and ammo along the way. They rescue Novalis' leader, Mayor Buckwash, who tells them that Captain Quark is in the futuristic city of Metropolis, filming a commercial for Big Al's Robo Shack.
Hi, I'm Captain Quark, and believe me, there's nothing worse than staring down a Blargian snagglebeast from the inside.
Just look at that glorious chin, the chin of a hero. The mayor allows Ratchet and Clank to borrow his courier ship, and they next head for Metropolis on the planet Kurwan. Before they leave though, they encounter a random plumber, who believe it or not will become a rather important character for the series. They also learn that the famous bad boy hoverboarder, Skid McMarks, is under attack on the planet Aridia. I smell a side quest. On Metropolis, Ratchet and Clank find that they are too late to meet Captain Quark, but just in time to purchase a propeller attachment for Clank from Big Al's Robo Shack. Guess that means the commercial worked. With Clank on his back, Ratchet is now able to glide around like nobody's business. Then, they learn from another infobot that one of Drek's lieutenants on the planet Eudora might know where Captain Quark is. After unlocking a few more sweet weapons and a grappling hook, the duo continues their intergalactic wild goose chase. First, they stop at Aridia to rescue Skid McMarks and his agent because there's always time to rescue famous athletes. Skid gives Ratchet a spare hoverboard and encourages him to enter a race later. Doesn't seem as important as the whole saving the galaxy thing, but Ratchet adds it to his to-do list anyway. When they finally catch up to the robot lieutenant on Eudora, they get a rather anticlimactic confrontation. Guess we're not getting a boss fight. The lieutenant runs away and leaves behind an infobot with the coordinates for Drek's base, the Blarg Tactical Research Station. They head there, expecting an epic showdown, but instead find the station completely abandoned. They hit the self-destruct button just for good measure and leave the station with no new leads, except the location of the hoverboard races. I suppose it was just meant to be. On the planet Rilgar, they fortunately learn that the winner of the hoverboard race will be receiving a prize from Captain Quark himself. Extreme sports save the galaxy once again. Ratchet wins the race, but Quark just ends up having his assistant hand over the prize prize. Ratchet and Clank make their way through the sewers until they reach Captain Quark's trailer. After bribing his bodyguard to get in, seems as though they've finally found the hero they've been looking for. Captain Quark says he already knows all about Drek's evil scheme, that Ratchet and Clank are just the allies he needed to help stop it. He invites the duo to his secret headquarters on the planet Umbris. There, Ratchet and Clank must complete an obstacle course to prove their worthiness to the legendary Captain Quark. Once they do, Quark congratulates them, before dropping them right into a deadly trap.
You've been most helpful.
Turns out that Captain Quark has agreed to be the official spokesman for Drek's new mega planet, and fame is worth any price, even destroying a couple innocent planets. All press is good press, man. Ratchet and Clank are dropped in the lair of the terrifying Snaggle Beast, a demon-like creature with laser attacks, energy blasts, and a force field, but by cleverly knocking it into the lava, the duo beat the Snaggle Beast and escape the trap. They find another infobot showing the planet Battalia under attack, but at this point Ratchet is fed up. He feels betrayed by his hero, scared of what lies ahead, and frustrated knowing that he was always Clank's second choice. He no longer cares about helping all these planets and only wants to get revenge on Captain Quark. He only finally agrees to go to Battalia with Clank because he kinda can't start any spaceship without the little guy. But he's not happy about it. Next, Ratchet and Clank fight their way through the robot army on Battalia, bickering the whole time. After rescuing a battalion commander, they get an info about the location of Drek's home planet, Orxon. The surface of the planet is so polluted that an organic life form can't even step foot on it, so Clank has to ride solo for this mission. The little guy makes his way through a robot factory, freeing even smaller robots called Gadgetbots that help him solve puzzles along the way. In the end, he finds magnetic boots that will help Ratchet run on walls and an infobot that he decides to keep to himself.
Better not let Ratchet see this one.
Back on the ship, Ratchet wrenches the information out of Clank and learns it is an infobot advertising the beautiful resort planet of Pokitaru. There, they can find a scuba mask that will help Ratchet survive on Orxon, and just maybe they can relax a little while they're there. On Pokitaru, our boys finally catch a break from all the chaos, for about 3 seconds. Turns out the Blarg have been dumping toxic waste into the water here, ruining the chill vibe and mutating the sea creatures into vicious monsters. Destroying their own planet just wasn't enough. The resort manager asks Ratchet and Clank to help stop the pollution by shooting down Blarg ships. Once they save everybody's vacation, they get the oxygen mask and are ready to return to Orxon. After exploring Orxon together, the pair finds another infobot detailing Drek's newest dastardly scheme. He's found the perfect place for his new planet. There just happens to be, already, a planet there. No big deal. Drek will just use his Planet Buster Maximus to blow it up. Ratchet starts to realize that, okay, maybe this mission is more important than personal revenge, but he still wants to get even with Quark, if there's time. They manage to hijack a turret and blow up the Planet Buster before it takes off, then learn that Drek might be at a moon outpost called Gemlik Base. Ratchet and Clank reach the moon base, but once again, they've just missed Drek. While looting the base for all it's worth, they see Captain Quark escaping on a ship and chase after him. Ratchet's piloting skills have gotten much better, dodges missiles, asteroids, and robots while blasting Quark's ship. After shooting Quark down, they find another infobot showing a city being destroyed by Drek's robots on the planet Altanus. Ratchet finally admits he's been acting selfish. We'll focus on stopping Drek from now on. It's easy to say after he already got his revenge on Quark. They arrive on Altanus in the middle of a thunderstorm and decide to leave Clank in the ship since his antenna would attract lightning. Ratchet explores the ruined city by himself and runs into Captain Quark, who's pretending to be a salesman for the company Gadgetron named Steve. This is the point where Quark officially transitioned from secondary antagonist to harmless, goofy side character. Ratchet completely ignores Quark and finds an infobot that points them right back to where it all started, the Warbot factory on Quartu. On Quartu, they meet a scientist who's tricked into helping Drek and is now working to destroy the factory. The scientist uses his enlarging machine to transform Clank into Giant Clank, an unstoppable titan who stomps right through the factory that greeted him. Could we just leave him like this, please? He's so useful. Unfortunately, all good things have to come to an end, and Clank is returned to normal size after destroying part of the factory. The scientist rewards our boys with yet another infobot. This one teaches them about a device that they can use to disguise Ratchet as a robot so they can sneak into the main, more heavily guarded area of the factory. The boys head to Kalibo 3, where they meet the CEO of Gadgetron. After Ratchet agrees to be the new face of the company's hoverboard line, they get the Hollow Guys. I mean, he's basically the new Skid McMarks. Back on Quartu, Ratchet used the robot disguise to sneak into the main part of the factory and find the computer that controls everything. Turns out this computer has been on their side from the beginning, as she calls Clank son and tells him she's proud of everything he's done so far. Gee, thanks, Mom. She just also keeps producing warbots because, you can only go against her programming so much. The computer warns them that Drek's new location for his planet is exactly where Ratchet's home of Veldin is now, and he's gonna destroy it with his new deplanetizer. Super creative name there, man. Drek's fleet is already on their way to set up the deplanetizer, so our boys launch and set off for the final confrontation.
I will try to make you proud, Mom.
The boys sneak into Drek's fleet and fight their way into the command center, only to learn that Drek is already on Veldin. They head down to the surface and see that Ratchet's home has been completely transformed into a nightmare hellscape. The end of days will do that to you. They fight their way to Ratchet's repair yard, where Drek is waiting in a giant mech. Clank takes his giant form again, and the boys face off with their true enemy for the first and last time. Clank tries to reason with Drek, but the slime ball is truly beyond logic. He reveals that he intentionally led efforts to pollute Orxon, just so that he could profit off of it creating a new planet. That new planet, well, you better believe he's gonna pollute that one too. The real final boss here? Capitalism. Using all the weapons they've collected so far, Ratchet and Clank managed to defeat Drek in an epic boss fight. Using a huge platform as a seesaw, they launch Drek's mech into space directly at his own new planet. Then fire the deplanetizer to blow up that planet with Drek still on it. Jeez, why you gotta waste a perfectly good planet? A chunk of that planet crashes into Veldin, nearly knocking the duo to their death and leaving Clank with a broken arm. Now that the galaxy is safe, Ratchet heads back to his home, leaving Clank, who sadly thinks their time together is over and that Ratchet never cared about him at all. But then, Ratchet turns around.
Hey, tin can!
And that is how a beautiful friendship was born. After they brought peace to the galaxy, the next entry in the series came just a year later in 2003 with Ratchet and Clank Going Commando. It was the beginning of a pattern in their game titles that will become obvious later. As the game starts, we learn that saving the galaxy has done wonders for our boys' reputation. They're basically intergalactic celebrities now, way more popular than Captain Quark, who is now considered a laughingstock. After all the parades and parties thrown in their honor, things finally start to slow down, though not for long. In the distant Bogon galaxy, a man is watching Ratchet and Clank being interviewed and decides that they are the heroes he's been looking for. With the touch of a button, the duo are instantly teleported onto a ship headed straight for the Bogon galaxy. The man introduces himself as Abercrombie Fizzwidget, the CEO of Megacorp. Apparently, a very important and adorably fuzzy research specimen was stolen from one of Megacorp's labs, and Fizzwidget wants Ratchet to get it back. While he does this, Clank will chill in a high-rise apartment in the city of Megapolis with a complimentary robot masseuse. That doesn't really sound like a very fair deal. Ratchet agrees to these unfair terms, and after going through an intense training course, he manages to track the thief down to a floating base. He fights his way through with the help of some super handy tutorial boxes, and after another encounter with the mysterious plumber, he soon finds the fuzzy little creatures he's looking for. Just then, the masked thief appears with some robot guards. The unknown thief grabs the creature and escapes while Ratchet fights the robots. Man, it's always robots. Ratchet dives off the base and is caught by his own ship like a badass. He chases the thief around the galaxy for a while and briefly makes an appearance on a reality fighting show called Galactic Gladiators. Ratchet always begs a little time for himself. Eventually, though, he receives a transmission from the thief showing that he's kidnapped Clank and is torturing the poor guy with electricity. Wait, can robots even be tortured? Ratchet heads to Megapolis, where he fights off more robots and goons that the thief hired from the company Thugs for Less. After taking down a helicopter mini-boss and seeing this cute little Jak and Daxter Easter egg, Ratchet infiltrates the thief's base and rescues Clank. The dynamic duo are back together and nothing can stand in their way. After some very necessary hoverbike racing, the pair uncovers a transmission from the heads of Thugs for Less, saying that all the thugs need to meet up. They investigate and find out that it's just for an employee bonding retreat, but while they're there, they learn that the thief is on the planet Siberius. There, they finally confront the thief and defeat him, taking back the fuzzy specimen without ever learning who that weird guy was. Well, that was easy. Then Ratchet and Clank bring the specimen to a rendezvous point on the planet Tabora. Fizzwidget lands in his much larger ship, completely crushing Ratchet's ship into a pancake. Fizzwidget offers them a ride home, but then accidentally hits the eject button, stranding them both in a dangerous desert cave. Now, Clank knows that this CEO is bad news, but sweet naive Ratchet really thinks he's just a clumsy businessman. After escaping from the cave, Ratchet and Clank are confronted again by the thief, who thinks that they still have the experiment. The thief falls off their ship, and the mask is knocked off to reveal it is a woman who looks a lot like a tall female Ratchet. Her name is Angela Cross, a former employee of Megacorp, and a Lombax, just like Ratchet. Small galaxy. Angela tells them that the fuzzy, adorable little creature they just rescued will soon bring destruction to the whole galaxy. She says that to see the truth for themselves, they should go to the Megacorp testing facility on Dabo. After a way too long section of gathering crystals to fix up their ship, the boys are finally on their way to Dabo. Oh, and in between each of these missions, we get to see little updates on how things are going for Captain Quark back home. Apparently, he was charged with fraud, arrested trying to leave the country, and then escaped prison by flushing himself down a toilet.
Flushing himself to freedom.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. On Dabo, the duo infiltrates the testing facility and finds a video that shows them the truth. That adorable fuzzball is a proto-pet. While it may look cute at first, it quickly grows into a giant flesh-hungry monster. Megacorp is going to sell these guys as pets all over the galaxy for free. Fizzwidget is insane and a way worse businessman than Drek was. Sweet innocent Ratchet still thinks that Fizzwidget is a good guy somehow, and he must not know his cute little pets are actually man-eaters. He calls Fizzwidget to tell him, and Fizzwidget says that he'll meet them at his deep space disposal facility to liquidate all the proto-pets Protopets. I totally trust this dude, don't you? We then immediately see that Fizzwidget hires Thugs for Less to stop protecting Angela and start protecting him. If you can't beat him, pay him. After Fizzwidget fails to appear at the disposal facility, the boys head to a Megacorp building on Veldin. They reach his office. They only find a robot double of Fizzwidget and are arrested by some thugs for attempting to assassinate Fizzwidget. The boys are imprisoned on the thugs' new floating base, but fortunately they leave a Clank-sized hole in the cell. With the help of a pink robot who seems to have a little crush on him, Clank starts crawling around in the guts of that place, doing his thing with the Gadgetbots and hacking in to guide Ratchet through the base. After they escape, they receive a transmission from Angela. She's figured out a way to stop the Protopets. Is immediately captured by thugs. Oh, good. Next, Ratchet and Clank get into a major space battle with the thugs and learn the location of the thug headquarters because their dumb boss sends it right to them. The boys break into the headquarters to rescue Angela, and after a long-winded giant robot boss fight, they succeed. Imagine that for literally 10 minutes. Angela tells them that the Protopets are about to be shipped out. They'll have to break into Megacorp headquarters on Yeetle to stop them for good. Ratchet and Clank meet up with Angela right outside the Protopet production room, but they're stopped by that pink robot who's a crush on Clank. She shows them a video that proves Captain Quark is the one behind the Protopets. His plan was to unleash the Protopets on the world, then stop them and become a hero once again. Fizzwidget coldly shoots the pink robot, then takes off his disguise to reveal this whole time he's been Captain Quark in disguise. While holding them at gunpoint, Quark broadcasts himself across the galaxy, blaming everything with the Protopets on our boys. And for some reason, people believe him. Quark pulls out a device he stole from Angela that's supposed to turn the Protopets into harmless furballs again. Since he's a complete moron though, he ends up turning a Protopet into an even larger monstrosity, which eats him up. After an epic final showdown with the giant Protopet, Angela shows up with the real Fizzwidget who's been tied up in a closet this whole time. The giant Protopet spits out Quark and Angela's device, which she recalibrates and uses to neuter all the Protopets across the galaxy. The boys are heroes, Quark is absolutely humiliated, and everything is right once again. Like clockwork, Ratchet and Clank were back a year later with Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal. After saving the Bogon Galaxy, the boys have been relaxing in their high-rise apartment in Megapolis, and Clank got a star in a James Bond-esque TV show called Secret Agent Clank. When you've saved 2 galaxies, you can do whatever you want. Suddenly, they see breaking news from back home in the Solana Galaxy. Veldin is under attack from an alien race called the Tyrannoids, led by the evil robot Dr. Nefarious and his loyal robot butler Lawrence. They race back to Ratchet's home planet and meet up with the Galactic Rangers, a bumbling robot police force who for some reason believe Ratchet is their new commander. They could do a lot worse. After clearing the Tyrannoids, they're contacted by the Galactic President, who asks them to help take down Nefarious. They're sent to find the only man who's ever survived a fight with Nefarious on the planet Florana. This man, or rather this creature, is a legendary Bigfoot-like being known as the Florana Tree Beast. And it's Quark. It is very obviously just Quark. On Florana, the boys are captured by Quark, who's now gone fully insane and actually believes that he is a monkey. His primitive monkey society puts Ratchet and Clank through a death maze until Ratchet finally gives Quark a long-awaited beatdown. Monkey Quark accepts Ratchet as his new alpha for defeating him, and he joins the party along with his one-eyed monkey friend, Scrunch. Yeah, the writers were just kinda going crazy on this one. They're then contacted by Sasha Pharonix, a peacekeeper in Solana who's captain of the starship Phoenix. The Galactic President has asked her to help Ratchet and Clank, and she invites them aboard her massive ship. The starship Phoenix serves as a home base for this game. They drop Quark off in his new home, a cage with a fake tree in it. Looks cozy. Ratchet and Clank meet Sasha in person and learn that the Galactic President is her father. I see you, Nepo baby. They then get a distress call from the President at the capital city of Marcadia. Dr. Nefarious interrupts the transmission to declare war on all organic life. Ratchet and Clank rush to the capital and help the Galactic Rangers defeat all the Tyrannoids once again. While on Marcadia, they encounter Big Al from the first game and purchase a Captain Quark video game from him, hoping they can return Quark's memories and find out how he defeated Nefarious. After beating the video game, Quark begins to recover his lost memories and sanity, but it's gonna take a while. In the meantime, Ratchet and Clank head to win a combat reality show called Annihilation Nation so they can win a device that can disguise you as a Tyrannoid. It's a weirdly specific prize. When they return victorious, they learn that Quark is back to his old superhero self, but for better and for much, much worse. He's already convinced the President to put him in charge and create a new team called Q-Force that consists of Ratchet and Clank, Sasha, Big Al, Quark's robot fitness trainer Helga, Skid McMarks, and of course the one-eyed monkey named Scrunch. It's not the heroes we deserve, but it's the ones we need right now. Q-Force's first official mission is to infiltrate Nefarious's underwater base on Aquatos to learn more about his plans. With some help from their unexpected new teammates, the boys enter the base, once again run into that strange plumber who says that he's been waiting for them here. Seriously, what is this plumber's deal? They sneak into Nefarious's office and learn that he is a massive Secret Agent Clank superfan.
The complete secret Secret Agent Clank Holovid collection. This guy's your biggest fan.
That is rather disturbing.
That's unexpected. Then again, I guess it's awesome for him to see positive robot representation in the media. They find the coordinates of the Tyrannoid home planet, Tyrannosis, and Q-Force launches a full assault. Ratchet and Clank destroy the Tyrannoid base and defeat the Mama Tyrannoid, proving they really don't need to be part of any force at all. Next, another intercepted transmission leads them to a weapons facility on the planet Dax. After fighting their way in, Ratchet and Clank find plans for a weapon capable of destroying all organic life called the Biobliterator. They also find information points to the Obani moon system, so they head there. After finding nothing on the first two moons, they realize the third one is protected by a powerful force field. Definitely something hiding in there. Right as Skid McMarx is about to try and break in with a crowbar, they get an urgent distress call about a Tyrannoid attack on the planet Rilgar. After helping out the Galactic Rangers again, they decide to track down Courtney Gears, a robot pop star who's expressed support for Nefarious. Just so happens that the grand prize on this season of Annihilation Nation is a meeting with Courtney. After winning the whole thing, Ratchet and Clank meet the pop star, and she agrees to reveal Nefarious's location if she can be a guest star in Secret Agent Clank. Man, robots love his show. They head straight to the set for the TV show, and what follows is one of the craziest sequences in gaming, where you play as a robot acting as a spy in a TV show in order to get information from a robot pop star.
Meet your new sidekick.
Oh, and Scrunch is Clank's new monkey sidekick on the show. Anyway, after they wrap up filming, Clank asks Courtney to hold up her end of the deal. Courtney has other ideas, as she knocks Clank out and brings him straight to Nefarious. Oh, and Ratchet isn't around because he got fired from his role as Clank's chauffeur. That's Hollywood, baby. The evil doctor expresses how much of a big fan he is, and invites Clank to join his side so they can crush all these squishy organics together. Of course, one of those squishies is Clank's best friend, so he turns Nefarious down. Back at Clank's trailer, Ratchet realizes something is off, starts searching for Clank. He soon finds him completely unharmed, and Clank says that he's learned that Nefarious is on a ship called the Leviathan. However, when Ratchet turns his back, Clank's eyes turn red. Uh-oh. Moving on, the boys get a call from Skid saying that he is finally able to break into the third moon in the Obani system. He discovered that it was actually Courtney Gears' secret base, but she immediately captured him. Ratchet and Clank head there, and are just in time to watch a live feed of the Biobliterator getting tested out on Skid. Instead of just vaporizing him, the machine turns Skid into an evil robot.
Like, destroy all squishies, dude.
Oh, the humanity. Ratchet and Clank reach the center of the base and manage to beat Courtney and her backup dancers, but they've no clue how to make Skid human again, and Clank is starting to act pretty evil. Just then, Sasha calls and lets the duo know that she tracked the Leviathan down to the Zeldrin starport. They head there and meet up with Captain Quark just as he's apologizing to Scrunch for doing something with his monkey sister.
It was mating season. How could I have known she was your sister?
Gross. The squad infiltrates the Leviathan ship. When they reach the bridge, Nefarious reveals the whole thing is a trap, and the ship is set to self-destruct in 1 minute. Quark stays behind to grab something important that he saw, and while they're debating about whether to leave him or not, Ratchet, Clank, and Scrunch watch the Leviathan explode with Quark on board. Q-Force lost a brave, insane leader today. Q-Force holds a quick funeral for Quark, but the battle must continue. Next, Nefarious and the Tyrannoids attack beautiful Metropolis, so Ratchet and Clank go there to stop him. However, at this point, it's revealed to us that Clank has been switched out with an evil version of him that Nefarious created named Clunk. The real Clank has been in a cage with Nefarious and shooting his TV show. Ratchet fights off the invasion and sees the real Clank, leading to an intense showdown between Ratchet and Giant Clunk. Ratchet beats the evil twin, rescues the real Clank, and they continue the search for Nefarious. The boys next return to the wreckage of the Leviathan to see if there's anything left of Quark to bury. They end up finding an encrypted disc and an audio recording that reveals Quark escaped the ship just before it exploded. While on the Leviathan, Quark remembered just how scary and dangerous being a superhero is and decided to fake his own death so he could live out his life in peace and anonymity. After bailing out the Galactic Rangers one more time, Ratchet, Clank, and Scrunch track down Quark to his hideout on a tiny frozen planet.
Let's see, where was I? Sexy, charming, brilliant, iron, hard, abs.
Clank appeals to Quark's heroic nature, if he has any, and tells him he has the chance to truly become the hero he's always pretended to be. When they get back to their ship, they hear a distress call from Sasha saying that the starship Phoenix is under attack. The boys hurry back to the starship and tear through hordes of robots. After rescuing all the Q-Force members, Big Al reveals he's finally broken through the encryption on the data disk. It shows that the Biobliterator is now located on the planet Koros, pointed directly at Veldin. Why are they always targeting Veldin? Using everything in their arsenal, Ratchet and Clank fight their way through, and Clank manages to destroy the Biobliterator with an ion cannon. Before they can even celebrate, Sasha calls and says that they found a second Biobliterator at Nefarious's command center on Mylon. A whole lot of puzzle solving and butt kicking later, Ratchet and Clank Clank have finally caught up to Nefarious at his launch site. The boss fight is incredible, multi-staged, incorporating literally every element of the game. Right when it seems like Nefarious is beaten, he teleports into the new Biobliterator, which reveals its true form, a giant mech. Just then, Quark arrives in a ship to provide some backup. I knew there was a hero somewhere in there, deep down. Together they manage to beat the giant robot, and Nefarious's plan literally blows up in his face. The game immediately jumps to a dazzling premiere of the new Secret Agent Clank movie. Peace has been restored to the galaxy, Clank is still super famous, and Scrunch, the one-eyed monkey, is now officially part of the team. Somehow, Skid is not a robot anymore. Ah man, I hope things stay like this forever. Ratchet, Deadlocked, was the franchise's fourth installment in 2005. Notably, it's the first and only game without Clank in its title, and after the complete silliness of the last game, this one took the series in a darker, grittier direction. They sure know what the fans want. The game picks up right where we left off, with Q4 still working together aboard the Starship Phoenix. Sasha calls to say that she's investigating the death of a soldier named Captain Starshield, and she believes that he may have been involved in an illegal combat sport called Dread Zone. They're about to learn a lot more about that firsthand. As robots invade the ship, capturing Ratchet, Clank, and Big Al, the three are teleported to the Shadow Sector, where the creator of Dread Zone, Gleeman Vox, welcomes them as the newest contestants on his sick, twisted game show.
The galaxy's #1 uncensored, unethical, and completely underground combat sport.
Yep, instead of another massive spacefaring adventure across multiple planets, they decided to put this game almost entirely on one prison station. Yippee. Ratchet is given a high-tech battle suit, complete with an explosive collar that will blow up if he ever stops cooperating with the show. With two upgradable battle bots at his side and Clank as his engineer, Ratchet fights through a series of progressively harder encounters in the Battle Dome. As he rises through the ranks, Ratchet starts to forget that he's being held hostage and begins to enjoy the fame that comes with being a top-tier gladiator. After all, it's tough having a sidekick who's more famous than you are. Vox starts getting worried that Ratchet is too popular, starts spreading lies about him in the media.
After making his fortune selling cigarettes to children, Ratchet went on to pilot a tanker ship for Zexon.
Eventually, Big Al finds a way to remove their explosive collars, but he's immediately shot by Ace Hardlight, Vox's goon, and the top Dread Zone blader. As Big Al's taken away in a space ambulance, Ratchet swears revenge on everybody involved with this sick sport. After a few more battles and platforming challenges, Ratchet takes down Ace and claims his spot as the top contestant. Vox congratulates Ratchet, tells him he was only spreading lies about him to help build up his reputation as a bad boy. He wants Ratchet to replace Ace as the new face of Dread Zone in space. Say that 3 times fast. Despite the allure of fame and fortune, Ratchet can't forgive this guy for hurting Big Al and turns him down. As punishment, Vox puts Ratchet into one final Dread Zone course that is supposedly unsurvivable. Oh, and they tell the public that it's Ratchet's punishment for using steroids. I'm glad they're still having fun with this. Our favorite Lombax manages to narrowly survive the Gauntlet of Doom, angering Vox even more. Then Clank, along with Big Al's return with some sweet new robotic limbs, reveal their plans to put an end to Dread Zone. They've reprogrammed a shuttle to take Ratchet straight to the central computer, and if he blows it up, it should let all the contestants escape containment. Vox catches him in the act, but he can't help but turn it into a big game. Gambling is his ultimate downfall. If Ratchet can succeed in this final challenge, everybody will go free. But if he fails, the entire station is gonna explode. Oh wow. Ratchet makes it through the final arena and ultimately comes face to face with Vox himself. After a lengthy boss battle, Ratchet takes down Vox, but he refuses to admit defeat and activates the self-destruct sequence anyway. Big Al swoops down to pick up Ratchet at the last moment in a ship packed with all the contestants and fans. Vox blows up alone on his death station. It's a fitting end. The game ends with a call from Captain Quark, complaining that no one kidnapped him and forced him to play a death game.
You guys missed the last 3 meetings of the Quark Cadets fan club. Well, don't worry. I've got extra copies of the newsletter, and I even saved some of the snacks.
Oh, Quark. Never change. After 4 mainline games, our first spin-off of the franchise came in 2005 with Ratchet and Clank Going Mobile. The game was a 2D platformer for mobile phones in which Ratchet and Clank are zapped inside a video game and must find their way out with the help of an AI. Just look at those graphics. All kidding aside, I gotta say, I really miss the days of full-fledged mobile games that didn't rely on microtransactions and annoying ads. The story is not technically canon, doesn't really add anything new, so let's just move on. The duo was reunited again just 2 years later in Ratchet and Clank Size Matters. These titles are so good. This was the first of only 2 titles not developed by Insomniac, so some fans debate whether it should be part of the canon, but we'll take a swing through the story anyway. Also, keep in mind, the game was originally developed for the PlayStation Portable, which is why it looks worse than any other title so far. After nearly dying on intergalactic television, Ratchet and Clank decide to take a break on the tropical planet Pokitaru. While relaxing on the beach, they meet a sweet little girl named Luna who wants to interview them for a school project about heroes. After showing off their moves in a quick little tutorial, they realize Captain Quark has been lurking nearby this whole time. It's not for anything evil though, he just genuinely has no other family or friends to hang out with. He never even met his own parents? Aw. Right then, robots show up and kidnap Luna. Ratchet and Clank fight some of them off, but fail to stop them from taking Luna away in their ship. As she's flying away, Luna drops a mysterious artifact that Clank believes belongs to the Technomites, a microscopic species that is only rumored to exist. They follow some coordinates on the artifact that lead to the planet Rylus, and lonely Quark tags along, hoping that somehow this adventure will lead to him finding his family. The artifact leads him to a strange Technomite chamber, and when they insert the artifact, it begins to display a map of the galaxy. Ratchet and Clank learn the location of Caladan, the planet where Luna was taken. Meanwhile, Quark manages to track down his family on a shady website, but it kinda seems like he's being scammed. Whatever. On Caladan, Ratchet and Clank infiltrate the robot base and rescue Luna, but suddenly, the adorable little girl drops her lisp and reveals that Ratchet and Clank have fallen right into her trap. Clank is zapped unconscious. When he wakes up, he finds himself on the robot planet Metalis, which unfortunately happens to be in the middle of Robot War 3. Oh god, there were 2 robot wars before this? Clank finds himself drafted into the middle of this geo-robotic conflict he couldn't possibly understand. I mean, how does he even know if he's fighting for the good guys? After a while, he arrives on a spaceship to save Clank, but Scrunch, everybody's favorite monkey Cyclops. Scrunch shows Clank some security footage of Ratchet getting experimented on in Medical Outpost Omega, and they head there to rescue him. Meanwhile, Ratchet is going through terrible nightmares featuring all kinds of enemies and locations from his past. Some real scarecrow fear gas stuff.
Now, if you don't like the sight of blood, you might want to close your eyes.
After a boss fight with a nightmare version of Giant Clank, Ratchet wakes up and finds Clank right by his side. As they escape the facility together, they find evidence that Luna's working with the Technomites. For some reason, they're researching Lombaxes. Also, the Technomite leader, Emperor Auto Destruct, is the one pretending to be Quark's family, which cannot be good. The boys follow some more coordinates they found to the planet Chalax, where they discover an entire city of Tino Technomites, and learn that Luna's actually just a robot being piloted by Technomites. Luna turns into a human-robot rocket and blasts off, so Ratchet and Clank follow her all the way to Danny Moon. The boys eventually catch up to Luna, and she reveals her evil plan. The Technomites are responsible for most of the incredible technology in the galaxy, but due to their tiny size, nobody ever gives them proper credit. Hell, most people don't even believe they exist. They wanted to collect Ratchet's DNA to create an army of Ratchet clones that would serve as the Technomite muscle. The boys defeat Luna in her helicopter and decide to search her robot memory for the location of the clone breeding facility. However, when Clank gets close, the Technomites zap him and all hop in his mouth. Ratchet uses a Technomite device to shrink himself, head inside his best buddy, and make the Technomites pick on somebody their own size. Doesn't it kind of feel like this could have been the premise of like the whole game? Inside Clank, Ratchet works with the little guy's security systems to drive out the Technomites and repair Clank. Ratchet climbs out, and after a sort of awkward moment, they head towards the cloning facility. After fighting their way in, the boys come face to face with Emperor Auto. He reveals that all the stuff about wanting proper credit was a load of crap. He actually has a completely different, insane, evil plan that involves using a machine to steal intelligence from the greatest minds in the galaxy. Okay. Ratchet and Clank start fighting the Emperor and his Lombax clone army, but they're thwarted by Quark, who's been manipulated into believing that Otto is his father, and he was zapped into a 40-foot tall giant. Scary stuff. After ultimately returning everyone to their normal size and defeating Otto, Scrunch arrives with information about Quark's real parents. They were a brave, loving superhero couple. They were tragically killed by defective tech created by Technomites. Damn, dude. Enraged, Quark straps Otto into his intelligence-stealing machine and plans to transfer his own intelligence, aka absolutely no intelligence at all, straight into the Emperor's brain. The kind of plan that only Captain Quark could come up with. Scrunch tries to stop Quark from doing it. In all the chaos, Quark gets shrunk down to a tiny size, and Otto ends up with the literal brain of a monkey. The only people he can hurt now are bananas. Delicious bananas. All the Ratchet clones are shrunk down and sold as toys across the galaxy, which I'm sure will be fine, and Ratchet and Clank are able to return to their relaxing vacation again. Next, the first title of the PS3 era came in 2007 with Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction. A game that I didn't think had a pun in the title until I thought about it a little harder. It's the beginning of a story that continues over the next 3 games, known as the Future series. The story begins in Metropolis, where Ratchet and Clank are testing a new rocket-powered vehicle. Clank gets a distress call from Quark warning that heavily armored robots are storming the city. The boys hop on their new rocket sled and crash it immediately. Yeah, you're starting this game on foot, son. As they fight through the city, they realize they're facing the Imperial Army led by the evil Emperor Tachyon, and they're after Ratchet specifically. Everybody always is. Emperor Tachyon personally introduces himself, saying that he is a Kragmite, an insectoid race with giant heads. His only goal is to destroy Ratchet, the last Lombax in the universe. Now, you may remember another Lombax character from just a few games ago, but the series starts sort of pretending that that never happened.
Simply allow us to kill you. No one else need be harmed.
Fair enough. Here you go!
The Emperor tells Ratchet to surrender himself, but he and Clank escape by stealing an Imperial ship. The ship automatically sets course for the Polaris galaxy where the Cragmites came from, and puts Ratchet and Clank into cryosleep for the long journey. While unconscious, Clank has a strange dream where a group of strange robots tell him his past is inside. They wake up after crash landing on the planet Cabalia and decide to find a way back to their home galaxy. They soon meet a smuggler who offers them a ride off the planet in exchange for them repairing a broken gel factory. Turns out gel is pretty valuable here. Who knew? After helping the guy out, the smuggler gives them a lift. Along the way, the smuggler reveals that a long time ago in this galaxy, the Lombaxes vaporized the Cragmite planet, leaving only one alive, Tachyon. Sounds pretty harsh, but apparently everybody saw the Lombaxes as heroes for it. Now, Tachyon has managed to create a big enough army to take over the galaxy and wipe out all the Lombaxes as revenge. The smuggler realizes that this probably means carrying around the last Lombax in the universe makes him a target, so he ejects Ratchet and Clank onto the planet Kortog. The boys fight their way through a hostile city, and at one point, Clank gets a cool glider upgrade from the little robots from his dreams. They're real! Clank finds a database with the location of a Lombax planet called Fastoon, but when they get there, they find it completely uninhabited, covered in ruins. Ratchet finds a wrecked Lombax ship that he decides to fix up, since it is the only connection he can to find his people. While he does this, Clank enters a mine to get some materials for repairs, and once again encounters the strange robots. They call themselves the Zoni, and show Clank a vision of some great evil coming to destroy everything.
Do not be afraid. We are here to help you destroy it.
Destroy what?
We have a lot to show you.
You know, some specifics to that vision would be nice, guys. Once they've repaired the ship, the system AI tells them how Tachyon destroyed the planet and drove all the Lombaxes into hiding. The ship takes them to one of Tachyon's bases on the planet Mukau, where they find Captain Quark working for the evil Emperor. He's claiming to be working undercover to bring the Tachyon down from the inside, but the truth is, he always just wants to side with whoever's winning. Quark provides Ratchet and Clank with an info bot that tells them Tachyon is looking for the Lombax secret, the weapon that allowed them to vaporize the Cragmite planet so long ago. Tachyon believes this secret could be hidden in the Nundek asteroid ring, giving the boys their next location. There, they run into the smuggler again, do some more of his dirty work in exchange for a launch code to bring them deeper into the asteroid belt. They eventually reach the Epigee space station, where they believe they will find the Lombax secret. Inside the station, Ratchet and Clank are ambushed by Talwyn Epigee and her two bumbling robot guards, but they put their weapons away when they see Ratchet is a Lombax. Talwyn explains that the station belongs to her father, Max Epigee, a famous explorer who was in possession of an artifact that could lead them to the Lombax secret. Recently, robo-pirates broke in to steal the artifact, and Max chased after them but never returned. The smuggler had mentioned pirates appearing on the planet Ardolis, so that's where they're gonna look next. Next up, Ratchet and Clank fight their way into the robo-pirate base and find the Lombax artifact inside a treasure room. They're forced to hide when the vicious pirate leader Captain Slag and his first mate Rusty Pete enter the room, but Talwyn provides a smoke bomb distraction so they can escape with the artifact. After fighting their way out, the team regroups and investigates the artifact, finding it only works when a Lombax holds it. Shows a map of the planet Riken 5, the location of the Lombax secret. I gotta say, they really stepped up the plot for this one, but where is the one-eyed monkey? I miss the one-eyed monkey. After some intense space battling, Ratchet and Clank skydive into Riken and make their way to a Lombax bunker that only Ratchet can open. Inside, they watch a video that reveals the great Lombax secret used to vaporize the Cragmites was a helmet called the Dimensionator. It also mentions that the device was tested in a facility on the planet Sargasso, so the planet-hopping scavenger hunt begins. On Sargasso, the boys reach the testing facility and encounter the plumber, who at this point is clearly much more than just a toilet unclogger.
Almost didn't recognize you in high def.
Tells the boys that he's been all over the universe. There's no device capable of vaporizing an entire species, meaning the Dimensionator did something else. The plumber gives them a 3 3/4 hexagonal washer and disappears by flushing himself down a giant toilet. Then the boys get a call from Captain Quark saying he may have found another clue. The duo returns to Mukau, where Quark tells them about the most intelligent machine in the Polaris galaxy, the Iris supercomputer. Iris has an IQ of 3 billion, so if anybody can find the Dimensionator, it's gotta be her. They next head to the Creeley Comet, where Iris is located, and find it crawling with pirates. The boys sneak in with a pirate disguise, and once again Clank gets a vision from the Zoni, this time showing him Talwyn locked in a prison cell. He continues to not tell Ratchet about these visions he's been having, and they soon reach Iris. The supercomputer reveals that the Dimensionator didn't destroy the Cragmites, but rather sent them all to an alternate dimension where they couldn't do any harm. Tachyon was discovered shortly after, still in an egg, and was raised by the Lombaxes, but he turned against them when he learned the truth about who he was. If I found out my adopted parents zapped my people to another dimension, I might be a little mad too. Now, Tachyon wants to use the Dimensionator for for his own evil scheme. Next, the boys learn that the vision about Tallwyn going to jail was absolutely spot on, and they must rush to Zordum prison to bust her out. Ratchet and Clank fight through Imperial forces and rescue Tallwyn, before heading on to the Dimensionator's location on Jacindu. After fighting through plenty more pirate and robot forces, Ratchet finds the Dimensionator, but Captain Slag snatches it right out from under him. Ratchet and Clank give chase and catch up to the pirate fleet inside an asteroid belt. They blast their way through, and take the time to show off some sweet pirate dance moves. Ratchet ultimately takes down Captain Slag in a thrilling boss battle, and Rusty Pete declares Ratchet is the new captain of the Robo Pirates. Now that they actually have the Dimensionator, Clank suggests that they destroy it since it is so powerful, but Ratchet refuses to accept that something the Lombax has created could be so evil. Suddenly, Captain Quark bursts out of a nearby crate and grabs the Dimensionator. He announces that he will be saving the day by tossing the device into a black hole, and then falls into a ship that is set for the Kragmite homeworld of Reaper. At least he had good intentions this time. On Reaper, the good guys realize that they've been playing right into Takian's hands this whole time, as he plans to use the Dimensionator to bring the Kragmites back to this galaxy. He steals the device from Quark and activates it at his base, bringing Kragmites flooding back in and knocking our heroes to the planet's surface below. Clank makes his way back to the ship by himself, and gets one more vision from the Zoni showing Ratchet standing in front of a portal on the Lombax planet. Ratchet gets back to the ship and only finds Tallwyn and her robots, and assumes that his desire to believe in the Lombaxes may have gotten Clank killed.
He was right. He's always right. I should have destroyed that thing when I had the chance.
Of course, the little metal guy shows up right then, and the two best buddies agree to never leave each other's sides again, or at least for the next level. With the Kragmite invasion in full swing, the boys head to the galaxy's capital of Meridian City, where Takian plans to kick off his evil reign. After kicking some insect butt and rescuing Captain Quark, they decide to trust Clank's visions and return to Festoon. Turns out to be the right call, as Takian and his army are headed there as well. Ratchet and Clank fight through waves of Kragmites until they reach Takian, and finally, after so many games, we finally learn about Ratchet's origins. Takian explains that when he's trying to exterminate the Lombaxes, they used the Dimensionator on themselves to hide in an alternate dimension. Only two Lombaxes stayed behind. One to close the portal behind them, and his infant son, who was actually Ratchet. That other Lombax, Ratchet's father, was tragically killed by Takian. Takian opens a portal to where the Lombax are living now and invites Ratchet to step through, believing that he will abandon his friends to go join his people. But Ratchet stands his ground, determined to see things through with Takian. I mean, don't tell a guy you killed his dad and then expect him to just walk away. After a crazy boss battle, the Dimensionator begins to malfunction and sucks Ratchet, Clank, and Takian into a new dimension, seemingly designed solely for the second phase of the boss battle. And after defeating him a second time, Takian says cryptically that he knows Ratchet's true name and his true purpose in the galaxy, before getting sucked into a black hole. I wonder what that's all about. The Dimensionator is broken, and only one thing can fix it: the hexagonal washer that the plumber gave them earlier. Clank repairs the device, and the heroes return to their dimension triumphantly. Peace is returned to the galaxy, for like 5 seconds. The Zoni appear again, grab Clank, telling him that he has a higher purpose, and then they teleport away. After that cliffhanger, the spunky little robot finally got his own game all to himself. Well, sort of. With 2008's Secret Agent Clank for the PlayStation Portable. As the second game not developed by Insomniac, it combined traditional Ratchet & Clank gameplay with stealth mechanics and more playable characters. The game was basically playing out an episode of Clank's hit spy show, and it begins with Clank watching Ratchet get arrested for stealing a giant jewel from a museum. But this is not our sweet lovable Ratchet. It's one who's acting like an evil jerk.
I'm still living in a tiny room with some 2-bit bag of bolts, but that's gonna change soon.
Clank sets off on a mission to figure out what's going on and prove Ratchet's innocence, while Quark follows around to try and somehow steal the credit for any heroics Clank actually does, as always. Now, Secret Agent Clank is also technically non-canon, since it takes place within a fictional television series. Anyway, in the end, we learn that Ratchet was being mind-controlled by Clank's evil counterpart Clunk, and the jewel he stole is the power source for a galaxy-destroying laser. Clank beats his evil twin's shiny metal ass, saves Ratchet and the galaxy, and rides off into the sunset. Okay, now let's get back to something that actually happened. The next installment of the Future Saga came in 2008 with Ratchet & Clank: The Quest for Booty. It is the second game where you never actually get to play as Clank, since he's sort of been kidnapped by ancient robots. It's also remarkably shorter than the other mainline games. The game opens with an intro explaining that after Clank was taken, Ratchet and Tallwyn went to ask the Iris supercomputer for help. She directed them to a pirate named Angstrom Darkwater, who happens to be an expert on all things Zoni. Ratchet and Tallwyn head to the planet Murdegra, where Ratchet battles hordes of robo-pirates, only to learn that Darkwater is apparently dead. Or is he? Nah, he is. Right as the pirates are about to launch our heroes out of a cannon, Rusty Pete pretends to be Captain Slag by wearing his severed robot head and takes command. That's pretty messed up. Rusty Pete wants to help out Ratchet since he respects his strength and launches the two towards Hulafar Island, where he says they will find what they seek. After landing on the island, Ratchet sees Clank floating above him for just a second, before disappearing as fast as he came. While exploring the island and helping to repair wind turbines for some reason, the island's mayor shows Ratchet a hideout that used to belong to the pirate Darkwater. Inside is a powerful telescope that Darkwater used to communicate with the Zoni. Since the Zoni are extra-dimensional beings, it isn't really a telescope in the traditional sense, but Darkwater called it that because that's just the kind of thing that pirates are into. In order to power up the telescope, they'll first need to retrieve the Fulcrum Star, which is buried with Darkwater in the Morrow Caverns. Rusty Pete shows up to give Ratchet and Tallwyn a ride to the caverns. What a reliable guy. Now, there's apparently a legend that anyone who disturbs Darkwater's body will unleash a terrible curse, but I'm sure that's just pirate nonsense, right? When they reach Darkwater's tomb, which is his entire pirate ship buried deep in a cave, Ratchet finds a map pointing towards the Fulcrum Star, and Rusty Pete reveals why he's really been so helpful all this time. He reattaches Captain Slag's head onto Darkwater's body to try and resurrect his captain. It works, but they also awaken Darkwater's angry spirit, which is now co-sharing his body along with Slag.
Scourge of the galaxy! Dirty backstabber, no good take a ride!
I miss Scrunch. Darkwater's crew of undead robot pirates rise from the Earth. Weirdly, for the first time in the franchise, this is where the series decided to experiment with branching narratives. Tallwyn gets stuck in a booby trap, and you have the choice to either rescue her or save yourself from the zombie robot pirates. Whichever you choose affects your relationship with Tallwyn moving forward, and as far as I can tell, it's the only time in the entire franchise you get to make a choice. Sure, why not? Anyway, Ratchet battles the undead pirates and follows the map to Darkwater Cove, which would have been the first place I looked, and he finds the Fulcrum Star. After a long battle, what is ultimately a very short game, Ratchet defeats Captain Slag/Darkwater, gets the star, and escapes back to Holofar Island with Tallwyn. Ratchet and Tallwyn return to the telescope and use the Fulcrum Star to power it up. The telescope shows Clank being held in an energy field by 3 Zoni who believe he is the Chosen One. However, Clank is only speaking in complete gibberish, so they summon a doctor to repair him. Fortunately, that doctor is none other than Nefarious. And his butler Lawrence is still with him, of course. Loyal Lawrence. The signal cuts out, but not before Ratchet can note down the location where Clank is being held. And that's the end of the game. Told you it was quick. The Future series was concluded a year later with Ratchet and Clank: A Crack in Time, which explores deeper into Clank's origin. Maybe saying, didn't the franchise literally start with us seeing Clank being created? But haven't you ever wondered what he was up to before that? Silly. The game starts with some voiceover from Clank's father, who says that while his son was born in a warbot factory, he was created somewhere far away. We then see that Clank is being worked on by Nefarious. The gullible Zoni believe he's just a humble robot repair guy, but Nefarious reveals that he's really trying to search Clank's memories for the location of a key that would open something called the Orphis Chamber. Remember when this series was just about capitalism? While Nefarious reveals his betrayal to the Zoni, Clank uses the chaos to escape. After a brief taste of freedom and tutorials, Clank is recaptured, and Nefarious reveals that they're in the Great Clock, a gigantic Zoni space station in the center of the universe that controls all of time. We then jump over to Ratchet, who's run out of options and resorted to teaming up with Quark.
These wild stallions have been in the stable too long.
While searching through space for Clank, their ship hits a temporal anomaly that knocks out the engines and leaves them stranded on the planet Quantos. There, they meet a village of Fongoids who worship the Zoni, and they teach Ratchet how to harness the power of the Zoni for himself. They also encounter an assassin sent by Nefarious named Lord Vorsellan, who's looking for someone named Azimuth. Once he's collected enough Zoni, Ratchet is able to use their power to repair his ship and leave the planet with Quark. First, they do a quick rescue on Vorsellan's ship, busting out some Fungoids that were kidnapped. Then they head to the planet Torin 4, hoping they can find this Azimuth before the assassin can. Back at the Great Clock, Clank wakes up to find that Nefarious and his troops have all just up and left. A friendly robot named Sigmund, junior caretaker of the Great Clock, shows Clank around and explains just what this place is. On one level, it's a giant contingency plan built by the Zoni to protect the stable flow of time. On another, much more real level, it's a place where Clank has to do a bunch of annoying time puzzles. Great. Sigmund brings Clank to a device where he's able to enter his own subconscious. There he meets his father, Orvis, or at least an AI program based on the Zoni who created him. Close enough. Orvis gives Clank a chronoceptor, a cool stick he can use to beat up bad guys and solve pesky puzzles. He says that his time as the Great Clock's caretaker is almost up, and his son Clank is destined to take his place. On Torin 4, Ratchet finds Azimuth, but the guy assumes Ratchet is an assassin, so he's got to chase him all over a massive smelting facility. When Azimuth sees that Ratchet is a Lombax, though, he apologizes and introduces himself as a former member of the Lombax Praetorian Guard. Wow, Ratchet has never met another Lombax before aside from that woman we don't even talk about anymore. This is not Ratchet's dad, though. It's just a a friend of his. Azimuth says he knew Ratchet's dad, Caden, very well. The guy would be proud. Nah, shucks. Azimuth doesn't really explain what he's doing in this dimension, but he knows a lot more about the Zoni and tells Ratchet all about the Great Clock. By finding something called an obsidian eye, they should be able to contact Clank and stop Nefarious's evil plan, whatever it is. Back at the clock, Clank continues his job training as the universe's new time guardian. He also gets some much needed background on the Great Clock, which we'll talk about now. A long time ago, the Zoni decide to share the power of time travel with all life in the galaxy. But of course, everybody abused that gift and wore down the fabric of time until it was completely torn apart. Orvis took back the power of time travel, and then built the Great Clock to rewind time and restore it. The only rule of the Great Clock is that Ratchet can never use it as a time machine for his own personal reasons. Can't imagine how that would even come up. Clank does some more time puzzles and learns more about how to use his time staff. He also learns that Dr. Nefarious eliminated the real Orvis on the planet Xanathar 2 years ago. It's tragic, but what are you gonna do? Can't change the past. Wait a minute. Back with Ratchet, he and Azimuth continue searching for the obsidian eye. At one point, Azimuth confesses the reason he isn't chilling with the other Lombaxes. He was the one who shared the Lombax technology with Emperor Tachyon, which led directly to his own kind being hunted down. Yeah, it's kind of a big no-no. Azimuth was exiled after it. And now he wants to use the Great Clock as his own time machine to go back and fix everything. I forget, was that something we are allowed to do, or we're not supposed to do? Ratchet and his cool new uncle find the obsidian eye and are able to contact Clank through it, who tells them to rescue his father on Xanathar. Probably already too late for Orvis, but not in the past it isn't. On Xanathar, Ratchet finds an ominous industrial base created by Nefarious. However, after stepping through a time portal the Sigmund creates for him, he finds himself 2 years in the past, in a luscious fungoid village.
Dr. Nefarious is not evil.
So we're just completely ignoring the no time travel rule. Got it. In the past, Nefarious's base is in the early construction stages, and Ratchet breaks in right as Nefarious is about to kill Orvis. Only right when Orvis is about to die, he kinda just disappears. Ratchet doesn't even need to change the past because Orvis is still out there somewhere, probably. Ratchet returns to the present and learns that Azimuth has been captured by Lord Vaselson, leading to another big space battle. Ratchet infiltrates Varselson's ship again and busts out his fellow Lombax. Over at the clock again, Clank is still doing his thing, solving puzzles, having a blast, and he encounters the plumber inside his own subconscious. Is there nowhere this man's pipes cannot reach? The plumber shares a bunch of folksy nonsense and warns Clank to not try any more than 6 minutes, whatever that means. Eventually, Clank reaches the master controls for the entire clock inside the Orvis chamber. Only as soon as he activates the controls, Lawrence jumps out and throws a flash grenade. Man, that damn butler. Moving on, Ratchet gets a distress call from Clank on the planet Vapedia. Of course, it's obviously a trap, and Ratchet is attacked in space by 3 mercenary sisters called the Valkyries. But despite it being a trap, Clank is actually there, because Nefarious is really not all that smart. Ratchet defeats the Valkyries and rescues Clank with style. Finally reunited, Clank explains everything and tells Ratchet that he can't use the clock to undo everything Tachyon did. Ratchet is bummed, but knows that his best friend wouldn't do this unless it was really important. Azimuth, on the other hand, is pissed. Basically calls Ratchet a traitor to his people. Okay, I got some names I can call you, buddy. Next, Ratchet and Clank, fighting together at last, infiltrate Nefarious' space station to stop him from using the clock for himself. Along the way, they meet a cute nurse.
Hey, look who it is! Welcome back, little guy. Am I glad you're here? You know who was a terrible sidekick.
Forgive me for saying so, but hubba wubba. With Nurse Quark's help and a solid Dr. Nefarious disguise, the boys reach the station's central command and blow up Nefarious's entire fleet. While they're escaping, they come face to face with the real Nefarious, who explains his evil plan. His stupidly simple evil plan. He wants to use the time machine to create a reality where heroes always lose and villains always win. Why didn't anyone else think of this? Ratchet and Clank are strapped to an asteroid and flung very, very far away. The Zoni appear and help the boys survive the fiery impact onto the planet Morcloin. This backwater planet hasn't seen a working ship in years, which means it's time for another time portal. After completely altering time to get a ship, the duo heads back to Nefarious' space station and engages him in an epic boss battle. Nefarious is absolutely demolished, and Azimuth picks the boys up right before the whole station's gonna blow up. Because of course it has to all blow up. They head to the Great Clock together, where Clank sadly says they will have to remain to take care of the time stream, because that means no more wacky adventures. Ratchet accepts his best friend's decision, but Azimuth doesn't. In a rage, Azimuth shoots Ratchet, killing him.
I said stop!
Jeez! In his defense, he is planning on changing the past, so none of this actually happens, but still. Clank knows the universe could be destroyed if Azimuth makes such a huge change, so he races him to the Orvis chamber. Clank gets there first and remembers what the plumber told him about 6 minutes, the maximum amount of time he can go back without damaging the fabric of time, and just long enough to save Ratchet. Clank goes back in time and pushes Ratchet out of the way right before Azimuth shoots him. However, in this new timeline, Azimuth is actually able to reach the Orvis chamber first and activates the clock to try and change the past. The resulting power is so great that the clock begins begins to crumble apart. After a true boss battle, Azimuth finally realizes that his guilt over what happened to the Lombaxes has led him to endanger the entire universe. He stands directly in the powerful time stream to turn the machine off, sacrificing himself to save everybody else. Once again, Ratchet truly is the last Lombax in the galaxy, more or less. In the aftermath, Clank realizes his friendship with Ratchet is the most important thing to him, and promotes Sigmund to senior caretaker of the clock so he can keep going on adventures. One final message from Orvis reveals that this, his son following his heart, was all he ever wanted. The next spin-off came in 2001 with Ratchet & Clank All for One. It was a co-op game designed for up to 4 players, playing as Ratchet, Clank, Quark, and Dr. Nefarious. Not a mainline entry, and visually it's pure chaos, so we'll get through the story on this one pretty quickly. The game starts with Ratchet and Clank being interviewed on television. Since we last saw them, apparently Nefarious survived and is still on the run. Quark somehow became the new galactic president. That poor galaxy. President Quark tells everybody that they have nothing to fear from Nefarious, but he begs to differ. Someone delivers a giant statue of a beast called a Groot to Quark as a gift for being such a good president. That someone is Nefarious, who immediately orders Lawrence to reanimate the frozen beast. Naturally, the beast turns on Nefarious, and all 4 are forced to team up to defeat the beast. After that, a massive space station appears in the sky and captures all 4 of them, plus the Groot. After waking up in a giant facility on the planet Magnus, the gang is freed by a mysterious little girl named Susie, and they learn more about their captors. The giant ship that took them is called Ephemeris, or the Creature Collector, and it travels around different galaxies collecting all the most dangerous and exotic creatures and bringing them to this facility as some kind of space zoo. They also learn that Susie belongs to a native species on Magnus called the Tharpods. Kinda sick of this stinky zoo taking up so much space on their planet. Also, the head security robot for Ephemeris, Commander Spog, has turned a bunch of Tharpods, Susie included, into orphans.
I stood atop Zuzo Fields and watched in horror as Commander Spog and his armies lay waste to Uzo City.
Yikes, this guy's gotta go. Now working together with some of their greatest past enemies, Ratchet, Clank, Quark, and Nefarious collectively find and whoop this Commander Spog. After delivering a beatdown, they promise to repair Spog if he can tell them how to stop Ephemeris for good, and he points them towards the ship's creator, the Architect. Now along the way to find this Architect, the gang finds recordings from a Dr. Frumpus Croyd, who at first seems like he's the Architect himself. Eventually though, the recordings reveal that it was actually Croyd's suspicious co-worker, Dr. Nevo Binkelmeyer, who created Ephemeris. He was completely obsessed with alien creatures, even went so far as to steal Croyd's pet alien squirrel thing, Mr. Dinkles. Croyd originally built Ephemeris as a small droid designed to get Mr. Dinkles back, but Binkelmeyer converted it into the massive creature collector. When they find Dr. Croyd, he seems pretty unstable.
I completely respect the fact that you're insane, but I'm trying to boost my approval rating, so what say we dial down the crazy and tell us how to stop Nevo?
Fortunately, Nefarious is able to hack his computers and discovers the location of the Ephemeris' charging dock. After taking a long detour across a frozen tundra, getting some help once more from the mysterious plumber, the gang arrives at the Ephemeris in its humongo parking space. The boys infiltrate Ephemeris and reach the core, where they learn the shocking truth. The bad guy isn't Dr. Binkelmeyer like Croyd thought. It's actually his adorable pet, Mr. Dinkles. Apparently, on top of all the other crazy stuff in this galaxy, there's a species of evil parasitic ghost known as the Loki, and sweet innocent Mr. Dinkles was possessed by the Loki Master. He framed Binkelmeyer and plans to use all the creatures he's collected as vessels for the rest of the Loki, so they can, destroy the universe. The Loki Master leaves Mr. Dinkles and possesses a giant creature called a Grivelnox that our boys must take down as their final test. Dr. Croyd arrives and apologizes to his old friend Binkelmeyer for thinking he was an insane villain. Together, the two old scientists figure out how to extract the Loki Master and destroy his spirit for good. The day is saved, but unfortunately, some things never change, and Nefarious strands the other heroes on Magnus as soon as he can. But in a post-credits scene, we see Nefarious looking fondly at a picture of him with the others.
We can make a quick stop and retrieve it.
Nah, he just wants to be part of the team. Full Frontal Assault was a 2012 spin-off that combined the classic action platformer with tower defense elements. In this one, Quark reunites the Q-Force to face an evil hacker threatening planetary defense systems. It's not a mainline entry, and there isn't much story, so no need to spend any more time on this one. The next mainline entry came in 2013 with Ratchet & Clank Into the Nexus, which essentially served as an epilogue to the future trilogy. Getting into it, after Ratchet & Clank have saved the third galaxy, they decide they kinda like it here in Polaris and join the Polaris Defense Force. Today their assignment is to escort a prisoner named Vendra Prague to the Vartax Detention Center. Tallwyn warns them that Vendra has been sentenced to life in prison for some real bad space witch shenanigans, and that she's super dangerous. Boy is she, because when they wake Vendra up to be transferred, she somehow knocks out all the power and gravity on the transport ship with her mind. While the boys try to repair everything, some thugs from Thugs for Less, led by Vendra's twin brother Neftin, attack the ship. The thugs bust out Vendra, kill Tallwyn's loyal robot guards, and blow up the transport ship. Ratchet and Clank narrowly survive by stowing away on a thug ship. After landing on the planet Yerrick, Ratchet calls Tolwyn to tell her everything that happened. She says this is way too dangerous and asks them to come home, but Ratchet says he needs to see this through. They start investigating what brought the Prague twins to this planet and soon find a kidnapped scientist named Pollux. The scientist reveals that the twins are forcing him to study an alternate dimension called the Netherverse so they can flood the universe with evil nether ghosts. The twins have had a sad orphan backstory that I wouldn't say justifies trying to destroy the universe with evil ghosts. Sorry orphans, but you don't just get a free pass. Ratchet and Clank then sneak into a cave where the twins are hiding out and watch as they use a homemade dimensionator to contact the Netherverse leader, Mr. I.
We'll have you out soon. Don't be like that.
The baddies foolishly mention that there's only one thing that could thwart their evil plans, and it's on the planet Psylocke. Vendra spots Ratchet and Clank. They barely escape out of the cave where Quark is waiting to pick them up in a ship. Actually being helpful for once, Quark really has made some growth. On Psylocke, the boys learn that this is the place where Vendra is going to open a massive portal to the Netherverse. They also learn that the Progs are originally from the Netherverse, which is why they so desperately want to return. Ratchet starts to sympathize, since he knows exactly, and I mean exactly what that feels like. However, he also understands better than anybody that's now worth destroying the universe just to find your family. Tries to convince Vendra to back down. The boys beat Vendra and Neftin, but the twins are still able to open a portal. Mr. I immediately betrays the twins, casting Vendra deep into the Netherverse, while the evil ghost army floods into Psylocke. Ratchet and Clank barely escape and get a call from Neftin, who now only cares about getting his sister back. The duo goes to meet up with Neftin on the planet Thram, and he says the only way to fix everything is to steal the original Dimensionator, which is now at the Intergalactic History Museum in Meridian City. After kidnapping a museum tour guide and sneaking through a lot of ventilation, the boys snag the original Dimensionator.
How do I get it to you?
Step away from the windows.
He must have acquired some sort of hydraulic zipline, or...
Right then, Mr. I arrives with his ghost army to try and destroy the device. Ratchet holds off Mr. I by himself, while Clank is zapped into the Netherverse to find Vendra. Things are getting crazy, with Ratchet fighting an interdimensional monster and Clank solving interdimensional puzzles until they finally free Vendra. The twins use their nether powers combined with the Dimensionator to banish all the ghosts back to their home dimension. The twins then surrender to the defense force, fully accepting the consequences of their actions. After seeing all this mess, Ratchet finally comes to peace with his decision not to go find the Lombaxes. However, Clank sneakily grabs the broken Dimensionator, hoping that maybe someday Ratchet's dream could come true. Before the Nexus was an endless runner released on mobile phones to serve as a prequel for Into the Nexus. Looks a lot like Subway Surfers, and considering that came out only a year earlier, I think it's safe to say it's pretty much just a direct ripoff. Anyway, moving on. Now, apart from a remaster of the first game that came in 2016, the Ratchet and Clank franchise lay dormant for nearly 10 years, just waiting for technology to catch up to their vast ambitions. Finally, when the PS5 released in 2022, they were ready. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart brought the fuzzy metal duo into smooth Ultra HD. The final entry, for now, begins in a dystopian alternate dimension where Nefarious has done the impossible. He's actually won. A member of the Resistance against Nefarious, a blue Lombax named Rivet, steals an infobot to help aid the Resistance. Instead of fleeing with the infobot, she stays behind to rescue an innocent civilian from Nefarious's enforcers. Lombaxes are badasses in every dimension. Back in our original dimension, Ratchet and Clank are being thrown yet another parade for being in the universe's greatest heroes. They're on Megalopolis, a city that is completely distinct from both Metropolis and Megapolis, because why not? Quark and Skid are there too, guiding the boys through a series of parade floats that represent all the crazy adventures they've had so far. Like clockwork though, the parade is interrupted by Goons for Less. I see that Thugs for Less finally decided to rebrand, but that didn't go far enough. Apparently, somebody put a bounty on Ratchet and Clank, but all I see is an opportunity for them to show the parade attendees just how much ass they can kick. They reach the end of the parade successfully, and Clank reveals a gift for Ratchet. He's repaired the Dimensionator so that Ratchet can go find other Lombaxes without destroying the universe. Ratchet doesn't know how to react, and doesn't need to, because Dr. Nefarious immediately grabs the Dimensionator with his new ship. Nefarious hijacks the parade and starts using the Dimensionator wildly, summoning all kinds of interdimensional creatures. The boys give chase all across Megalopolis in an action sequence that honestly kind of puts every other previous action sequence to shame.
The dimensions are weakening considerably. How bad is it?
Only on PS5. In all the action, Ratchet accidentally shoots the Dimensionator's power source, the Phase Crystal, causing it to malfunction. It's complete chaos, with dimensional rifts opening up all over the place. Eventually, Ratchet and Clank wind up with Nefarious and the Dimensionator in the dystopian city from the beginning of the game. Before Ratchet can knock out Nefarious, the Dimensionator explodes in a massive wave of light that covers the entire planet. Clank wakes up to find one of his arms missing, and is taken by Rivet, who wants to figure out what the hell is going on in her nightmare city now. Meanwhile, Nefarious wakes up inside his own majestic throne room. He's overjoyed to have actually actually found one dimension where he isn't a total loser. Since this dimension's Emperor Nefarious seems to be away on some evil business, nobody will mind if our Nefarious takes his place for a little bit. Finally, Ratchet wakes up alone in Nefarious City. While coming to terms with this upside-down new reality, Ratchet spots Rivet running through the city with Clank on her back. Rivet flies away in her ship before Ratchet can reach them, but he's able to find another Resistance member named Phantom, the alternate dimension version of Skid McMarx.
It's the only place in the city you're gonna find a Royal Starship.
What's so special about the blimp?
Just find a way up to that rooftop. I gotta grab my gear.
Skid is chill in every dimension. Ratchet tells Phantom that he's looking for a way off the planet, and the chill boarder says if Ratchet helps him hack a propaganda blimp, he'll help Ratchet steal one of Nefarious' ships. After a successful mission, Phantom provides Ratchet with a helpful nanobot named Glitch that he can use to hack things. He's got an even smaller robot sidekick. That's cute. Ratchet and Glitch blast off, narrowly evading Dr. Nefarious, who's enraged that his greatest foe is trying to ruin his perfect dimension. Meanwhile, Rivet and Clank are on their way to Rivet's home on Sargasso, an alternate dimension version of the planet Sargasso. I don't think I understand alternate dimension rules. Rivet refuses to believe that Clank is from another dimension, when she suddenly gets a distress call from a friendly village of little worker dudes called the Morts. Apparently, some goons from Goons for Less also came through a dimensional rift and are still trying to collect that bounty on Ratchet. Of course, the best way to do this is to harass these innocent little fuzzballs. Do these goons, seriously, think all fuzzy creatures know each other? That's racist. Rivet, who is every bit as capable as her dimensional counterpart, kicks some goon butt and saves the Morts. But some Morts are still trapped inside an unstable rift, so Clank hops in to figure it out. He's got experience with this hippy-dippy stuff. Inside the rift, Clank meets Gary, his spiritual guide and the son of the plumber.
Teamed up with the Lombax, became a hero. Ooh, good for you. Ooh, friend of my father.
I'm not seeing the resemblance. Gary teaches Clank how to fix these dimensional tears, which, of course, requires some good old-fashioned puzzle solving. After saving all the Morts, they return to Rivet's home base, where she reviews Clank's memory logs and is forced to admit that he is telling the truth. The dimensional rifts didn't clear that up for you. In her defense, Rivet has spent her whole life on the run, losing friends, family, and even one of her arms to Emperor Nefarious. She next decrypts the infobot she stole at the beginning of the game, which attracts a giant minion of Nefarious called the Seeker Pete. The Seeker Pete snatches Clank, and after a genuinely thrilling boss fight, Rivet defeats the metal beast and starts to actually become friends with Clank. Lombaxes just can't resist the little guy. Next, Rivet and Clank head to the underworld hotspot of Zerky's Gastropub. This black market hub is filled with Easter eggs from past games, but that's not what they're here for. Rivet is looking for a part to repair Clank's communicator so they can contact Ratchet. Rivet tries to buy the part from a robo pirate named Pierre, the counterpart to Rusty Pete, but the only language these pirates understand is violence, so she ends up having to fight him for it, and his entire crew too. That's just not fair. Regardless, Rivet does thwomp them all and wins the communicator part. They're able to contact Ratchet and fills each other in on everything that's happened. Safe to say, it's quite a trip for Ratchet to be talking to another Lombax, especially when she's literally an alternate version of him. Pretty weird for Rivet too, since she's also the last Lombax in her galaxy.
Be careful out there.
Wow, another Lombax.
Anyway, with the Dimensionator completely busted, they plan to build a new one and split up the work. Ratchet will go collect blueprints on Gary's planet of Savali, while Rivet and Clank get a new phase quartz on Blizar Prime. On Savali, Ratchet meets Gary in person, picks up yet another robot sidekick named Kit. You thought there wouldn't be a girl Clank in this dimension? Ratchet and Kit work together to beat up a bunch of nefarious troops and liberate the monks who live here at the Interdimensional Archives. After saving the day and collecting the Dimensionator blueprints, they learn they can only build the device at a special forge on the planet Cordelian. Just then, a bunch of warships appear. In order to protect Ratchet, Kit transforms into her giant warbot form. Kit reveals that just like Clank, she was originally created as a killing machine. One day, after accidentally hurting somebody, she exiled herself here on Savali and promised never to use her weapons again. Hey, as long as you point them at the right people, we're cool. Ratchet tells Kit that he isn't afraid of no warbot, and they decide to continue partnering up on this mission. Meanwhile, Rivet and Clank reach Blizar Prime, but bad news, it exploded. Fortunately, Clank finds a cool purple crystal, allows them to jump between dimensions, and visits a version of Blizar that isn't exploded. Basically, means he and Rivet are gonna have to do some nifty interdimensional platforming. In the dimension where things aren't just a bunch of chunks floating in space, they try to convince some miners to ignore the earthquakes that have been happening and to focus on drilling for more phase quartz with their sweet laser. Of course, they eventually realize that the reason Rivet's version of Blizar blew up was because they drilled too deep. They warn the miners in the alternate dimension to not make the same mistake. The drill goes completely haywire thanks to some goons and nearly destroys the planet anyway. But Rivet crashes a goon ship into the laser drill to stop it at the very last moment, and even gets some phase quartz in the process. Ratchet, take notes. And the phase quartz falls into the path of the laser and is shattered. Never mind. Rivet says that they should go visit a mythical creature called the Fixer, who may be able to repair the crystal. Moving on, Rivet and Clank search for this Fixer on Torin 4. Along the way, Rivet asks Clank why Ratchet didn't try harder to find his own people. I mean, if she knew there was a machine who could reunite her with other Lombaxes, she would do it in a heartbeat. Careful. The last time a Lombax started talking like that, Ratchet literally died. They smash through some more robo-pirates and reach the Fixer, a gigantic depressed robot. Something has clearly got the big guy down, as he says that nothing can be fixed, and starts using his laser vision to blast everything in sight. Guess we gotta get him a new name then. Right as they're about to be crushed, Clank manages to relate to the Fixer. Broken robot to broken robot. Just like that, the big guy settles down and uses a beam from his eyes to repair the face quartz. Can you do that with Clank's arm? That'd be great. Over on Cordelian, Ratchet and Kit are doing some of their own interdimensional hopping. The forge they need to reach to create a new Dimensionator is in the center of a heavily guarded lab, so they sneak through an alternate dimension where that lab is completely abandoned. Yeah, just completely abandoned, apart from a terrifying beast named Juice. Looking through logs, they learn that poor Juice was actually kidnapped and brought here to be used as a living power source for the lab. So, with the help of the Juice that has already turned on its masters, they return to the original dimension and free that Juice. Now, with double Juice power, Ratchet and Kit clear out the nefarious troopers, reach the forge, and create the new Dimensionator. Now that we've got all the pieces, everyone heads back to Zerky's gastropub, and all these alternate dimension counterparts meet for the first time.
Pretty sure you're me, after all.
Wait, what makes you so sure you're not me?
Well, I mean, come on,
They all headed off immediately, since they're the same people and robots, when suddenly nefarious troopers attack and steal the Dimensionator. Really? After all that work? Rivet tackles Dr. Nefarious through a window and starts fighting him, chasing him through all kinds of different dimensions before ultimately beating him. Unfortunately, that's right when the real Emperor Nefarious shows up with a way more sinister paint job and picks up the Dimensionator. This is a villain who actually knows what he's doing, and he coldly zaps away half the crowd at Zerky's before telling Rivet he's gonna destroy Sargasso, just because. The Lombaxes do a quick sidekick swap, so Rivet and Kit can go save Sargasso, while Ratchet and Clank search for a superhero who can help them named Captain Quantum. I wonder who Captain Quantum could be. Back on Sargasso, Rivet and Kit start bonding, but it feels kinda forced. I mean, they know they're best friends in an alternate dimension, but in this one, they just aren't really feeling the spark. Emperor Nefarious is using the Dimensionator like a new toy on Christmas, summoning all kinds of monsters to attack Sargasso. Rivet and Kit rescue the Morts, who tell them they've reprogrammed the Seekerpede to be on their side. Also, Kit takes over Clank's job of fixing dimensional rifts and learns from Gary that all these rifts being created is not good for the universe. Tell me something I don't know. With help from the Seekerpede and an actual gosh darn dragon, they destroy the Emperor's warships and stop the invasion. The Emperor briefly traps Rivet and Kit in a pocket dimension, where Kit asks Rivet how she lost her arm. Rivet says she lost it to a warbot in Nefarious City, and Kit realizes with horror that she is that warbot. Kit decides not to share this information, and they head back to Zerky's. Meanwhile, Ratchet and Clank head to Ardolis, and after completing a pirate-themed obstacle course and evading a kraken, they reach Pirate Captain Quantum. I'm relieved to say he's every bit as cowardly and selfish as our Quark is.
No, he's a hero. Even though he's betrayed us, surrendered to save his own skin, taking credit for our...
He's a hero?
Ratchet convinces Captain Quantum to actually be a hero for once, but the robo-pirates aren't willing to let their captain go that easily. They fight their way out, but the Emperor shows up and creates a rift that goes straight to jail. Quantum sacrifices himself to help Ratchet and Clank escape, but not before telling them that he planted a bug on the Emperor's assistant. Back at the Emperor's lair, Dr. Nefarious is giving his counterpart some much-needed life coaching. Sure, he's conquered this dimension, but why stop there? Why not conquer all the dimensions and leave Dr. Nefarious in charge of half of them? In order to do this, they'll need a dimensional map from the archives on Savali, so that's where everybody heads next. When the heroes get there, the archives have already been destroyed by dimensional chaos. Ratchet and Clank fight through skeleton monsters to reach the ruins, but they can't find the dimensional map anywhere. Meanwhile, Rivet and Kit sneak onto the Emperor's ship to rescue Gary and the other monks. They learn that the monks hid the map inside a dimensional rift. Sounds right up Clank's alley. Clank finds the map and learns exactly how to undo all the damage once they get the Dimensionator back. As always though, this new Nefarious is one step ahead. The second Clank emerges from the rift, the Emperor's waiting to snatch the dimensional map from him. He throws Ratchet and Clank through a portal directly into Zordum Prison, along with Captain Quantum. Rivet and Kit arrive just as this is happening, and Kit transforms into her warbot mode to try and stop the Emperor. Of course, as soon as Rivet sees this, she realizes Kit is the one who took her arm. She's horrified.
You! It was you!
Dr. Nefarious manages to help his bro out and sends Kit through a portal as well. Both Nefariouses hop through a portal, leaving a confused, lonely Rivet all by herself. Things are not looking good. Next, Rivet heads to Zordon Prison by herself for a solo prison break. Surprisingly, goes pretty well. She rescues Clank right as he is about to be incinerated and busts out all the Resistance members who've been trapped there. All that's left is to get Ratchet and Kit from the prison's VIP area, but of course, Rivet has mixed feelings about rescuing the bot that ripped off her dang arm. She frees Ratchet and Kit anyway. They all escape thanks to Phantom swooping in and picking them all up. Instead of trying to make things right, Kit says she just wants to go back to exile on Savali, which frustrates Rivet. Will these kids ever work things out? Back at Xerxes, Ratchet tells Rivet she shouldn't push Kit away out of fear, but Rivet responds by saying that's exactly what Ratchet is doing with the other Lombaxes. Ouch. This is not the time for personal drama though. They have a universe to save. Multiple, actually. They assemble a huge war party that includes Resistance fighters, pirates, monks, and even goons for less, who realize there will be nobody left to hire them if all the dimensions are conquered. Just then, the Emperor makes a broadcast announcing that their first target will be Ratchet and Clank's home dimension. The good guys follow Nefarious's fleet through a portal and all wind up back on Megalopolis. They all head straight for the Emperor to try and snatch the Dimensionator from him, but he came prepared with his enormous Imperial power suit. This final sequence is absolutely insane, pulling mechanics and enemies from pretty much every title in the franchise. Ratchet drives a ship full of explosives straight at the giant mech's head, but it still isn't enough. I mean, look at how full that health bar really is. Eventually, Ratchet makes his way inside the power suit and destroys the core. Desperately, the Emperor summons as many troops as he can, only for Kit to show up and kick their butts. I knew she'd come back. Rivet and Kit make up, and Rivet is finally able to take down Emperor Nefarious for the first time in this dimension. Aw, I remember my first time back in 2004. Ratchet catches the Dimensionator and opens a portal right beneath the Emperor. A giant kraken tentacle reaches out, grabs the Emperor, pulling him into somewhere that I have to assume is not very robot-friendly.
We can win this together!
What do you know about winning?
Clank repairs the Dimensionator, and everything goes back to the way it was. Rivet and Kit decide to stick together as a team, and they celebrate with Ratchet and Clank. But before everyone goes their separate ways, they have one more stop to make. After all these years, Ratchet is finally ready to meet all the other Lombaxes, and now he's got a friend to introduce them all to. So that is the entire story of a heroic Lombax and his lovable metal friend so far. Click one of these links to watch another one of our videos. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching. See ya.